Welcome back, folks, to Randy's Collection, just part of the wonderful world of Randy. And we are here to talk about another item today. Oh my goodness, what a fun story this is here. This is a little bit of a mixture between amusements and Disney. And everybody loves Disney, especially old Disney stories, like an old guy from me who started as a guest there in the spring of 1972 after they had just opened in October of 71. I was a wee lad and I was only 11 years old. And we stayed in the Contemporary Resort Hotel, which was the premier place to stay. And it was a very festive hotel, and one of the fun things they had for their guests there down on the first floor was the Fiesta Fun Center. And it was a big arcade. And it didn't start out as a big arcade. The very first year they were there, it was kind of small, and they had curtains blocking off the area, and you thought it was just a small arcade because they weren't really ready. But by the second year, that curtain moved back more, and by the third year, the curtain was gone, and it was a huge arcade, and they had a lot of varied games in there, unlike arcades of the day. You're talking now mid-early 70s. Arcades that you found only on the boardwalk, there weren't any in malls or anything of this nature. They were your traditional boardwalk arcades, but for an arcade off of the boardwalk or out of an amusement park per se, to be in a hotel of this size with this variety of things was really something very, very special. There were no family amusement centers back then. This was the beginning. Well, the Fiesta Fun Center not only had your traditional games, your pinball, your rifle games, they had ping pong tables where you bought a ping pong ball in the gumball machine for a quarter so you could play ping pong. And they had some unique games that were custom manufactured by Disney for the Fiesta Fun Center. Really, really neat stuff. And we're going to show you something right now that there aren't any replay. There's not another replacement for this game anywhere in the world because there were only two made. One was destroyed in California at the Disneyland Hotel, and one was saved by me from the Contemporary Fiesta Fun Center in the mid-80s when they were taking it out. But it was a premier game that everybody played. I played. People stood in line. It's the first linked driving game. Imagine that. Today, you take it for granted. There were none. And it starts right here. This is a game made by Bally Midway, and it's called Wheels. Black and white video game, early video game. And there was block diagram, very, very blocky, without decals, cars. And you had one car that you moved back and forth with your steering wheel. But it had cars that would come down at different moving angles, and you had to avoid hitting those cars. You stepped on the gas pedal, you had low speed, high speed, and you would make your way to pass as many cars as you could, and you would increase your score. It was a really fun game, even just as it is. It's a single-player game in the arcades. Well, Walt Disney World, with their staff of engineers, decided, let's take this game and make it an interactive game. Well, as you see, this game is the standard arcade version, but they often made games called the mini version that were a little smaller for locations that didn't have the space. And in this instance, the smaller version simply didn't have this upper overhang canopy. That was the full-size version. The mini version is right here. It's the same game. It does not have the canopy on the top, but otherwise the game is identical. Possibly a little bit thinner in size. Looking at them right next to each other, it looks like we're saving a couple inches, because here you have a horn button on the side, and here there would be way more room for that. So it's definitely a couple inches thinner for space. Walt Disney's engineering department acquired 6 of the Wheels minis directly from Bally Midway, and they created their own interfacing for the computers that were built with the machine. The interfaces connected all 6 machines together to control a master display board, which is up top here. Now, all these little images of cars have a light bulb, incandescent light bulb behind them. So there's all little cubbies and cubicles and light sockets going all the way down the line, including the colored rectangles on either side would have lights, and they would light up telling you a certain thing according to whatever the message was. So what this system did was, at the start of the game, it would give everybody a certain amount of time to load their quarter into the machine to become part of that race. And it would light up on that end that you're ready for the race. When the time ran down, it would say go, and all the numbers would light up in the green section of the people who were playing, and you would drive. And every car you passed, instead of just giving you score on the screen, would advance the light in sequence on the backboard, so you could tell which car you were by the number of your machine, and you would be racing against the other players to get your car to the finish line first. But a lot of times you get kids playing these games, or even adults who are simply no good at video games, so the game might never end. If there was some other way to end it, would be good. Could you run out of time, but you made it a race? So what they did was they added an extra row on the bottom, made it the pace car. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lanes for the 6 positions, and a 7th lane on the bottom labeled as the pace car. So when the game would begin, the pace car would move automatically, slowly, but automatically. So if you were all bad drivers, maybe the pace car would get to the end first. If not, the first one who got to the end would win the race, and it would light up on the colored section here that you won and you were the winner. You didn't win anything for doing it. It wasn't a prize game. You didn't even win a free game. It was just for bragging rights. And this system was only found in 2 places in the world because they were custom made by Disney. It's called the STARCADE system. That was the name they gave to it. And it was in the Fiesta Fun Center at the Contemporary Resort Hotel. The other one was in Disneyland Hotel. And when the one in California was pulled out, it was destroyed because I wasn't there. But the one in Florida, I was there. I was working at Walt Disney World at that time, and I bought it. And how did I get it home? Well, that's a whole nother story. But because they're individual machines, each one came back with 1 trip coming home from my daily's work at Walt Disney World. I would stop over at Property Control, load up the machine into the back of my 1981 Chrysler LeBaron station wagon, which never ran right to begin with, and I had to make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 trips to get the mainframe home. Actually, it was 7 trips because there was an extra one, and I have that too. And then the main computer was an assembly on a rack, which had to go home in a separate system. Finally, the big backboard had to come back, and it sure isn't going to fit inside my Chrysler LeBaron station wagon. So it was laying flat, and Disney's guys lifted it up with a forklift, and they lowered it down onto the roof rack of my Chrysler LeBaron station wagon. Well, the length of this board is longer than the station wagon. So the front part was way over the front hood, and the back was way over the back, and it was tied down as best I could. And when they lowered this down onto my car sank. And the wheels were rubbing the wheel wells as I tried to drive home. So here I am driving the back roads of 535, 5 miles an hour in the pitch dark. It wasn't developed back then. It's like driving through, the swamp. You don't even know where you are. You can't even see the road. There's no lights. Then I get to I-4, and I'm having to drive in the shoulder 5 miles an hour or less as you hear as the rubber is rolling, rubbing the fenders of my car. And fortunately, I lived as close to Disney property as you could back then. I lived right over by SeaWorld, so I was the next exit, getting off the Beeline Expressway at 528 and then into my housing development, where I finally, after over an hour for sure, driving home so slowly, got to my driveway, pulled in the driveway, and now I had to get it off my car. Well, the next day, I was due to work at Walt Disney World, Main Street operations. I have to drive back. I can't drive back with the STARCADE system on top of my car. So I'm lucky I made it home. So what am I going to do? I'm alone. how am I going to get this off my car? So I knew I had only one chance. I pulled my car onto my front grass, and I got a ladder. After I untied everything, I wiggled it over till it was just at the teeter-totter position at the edge of falling over from its weight being off center. And then I got on the top of the ladder, and I knew I had one shot to give it the biggest shove I could possibly give. And I knew that if I didn't do this right, it was going to fly off and then slam back and break all the windows on the side of my car. So I'm up at the top of the ladder, and I'm taking a deep breath, and I'm ready, and I'm like, God, please don't let this ruin my car. And I gave it a big shove, and off it went, and off I went as the ladder flew backwards, and I flew on the grass on the other side of the car. But miraculously, the STARCADE system landed in the grass and sank into the grass itself. The corner went down and sunk into the grass, which kept it from flopping either direction because it was now buried with the dirt and the grass surrounded to it for about 3 lanes up. I moved my car out of the driveway as quickly as I could, and then spent the next 2 hours dragging it little by little across the lawn, across my driveway to get it into the garage, where finally it found its resting place for probably the next 15 years. And there it stood until at one point I had to move it again, and it had to get dragged up the U-Haul, the U-Haul ramp. You know, when you rent a U-Haul truck, they don't give you an elevator gate, they give you a ramp. And it had to go up that ramp and alone by Super Randy, and into the truck it went, where it found its way back here to New Jersey, and eventually, not firsthand, eventually it ended up right here as part of my Good Time Emporium at the Wonderful World of Randy. Just a little story of the incredible STARCADE system from the Fiesta Fun Center at Walt Disney World's Contemporary Resort Hotel. I knew you'd enjoy that one. See you next time, guys.